So hi everyone, I'm Roshni. So I work as a lawyer at a FTSE 100 company, and I guess I am someone who found out that I have dyslexia, which is quite an interesting kind of condition or diagnosis to have when you're working as a lawyer, which is kind of very detail orientated, kind of really being quite having really good attention to detail, having to read a lot. So it's been quite an interesting journey, kind of from when I found out about my dyslexia to kind of how I can practically kind of now use what I know to kind of find the right strategies to support me in my role as that. I was someone that had a special needs teacher when I was a little girl, so I would get my B's and D's mixed up. And so that teacher, I believe, would have said to my parents, Roshni might have dyslexia, but they didn't get that tested any further. It was really only until, as I said, last year that I'd kind of been getting some feedback from my employer, and I thought that feels really harsh. I feel I'm trying really hard. Certainly not through lack of effort or being lazy. I'm just not kind of getting the feedback, and I'm not quite developing in the way that I want to be. If I'm honest, a huge sense of relief. I don't think it radically changed how I saw myself. I think I perhaps had a bit more kindness and compassion, like, that's why I found certain things hard. It certainly wasn't something I'd viewed negatively. I do, though, think that there is something to be said for knowledge. So if you have that, my hope is that if we've got the right support in place, then, you're getting the right help to further your kind of dreams, aspirations, your aims. Whereas obviously without having that, sometimes you are shooting in the dark, and there are certainly times where I look through my career and my education where I just overcompensated. I just had to work harder. And I distinctly remember I was someone who, I always say I'm a product of hard work and perseverance. I don't think I'm any cleverer than anyone else. I just really wanted it, and I worked hard to get what I did. But if I had known sooner, maybe I would have had different levels of support, and I might have had a more easier journey in theory. I guess you don't necessarily know, but I do think there's a lot to be said for knowing, because that can then mean you come from a place of greater empowerment and you can get the right support to help you, rather than sort of shooting more in the dark, which perhaps on one level I was. We all go to work to want to do our best work. We all want to feel respected, understood. And I think that's your entitlement, whatever your background. So I think it does really require your line managers or the business, the culture, to truly emphasize supporting all different people and their way of working. But actually, how do you practically do that? It's very hard. I think there's that education awareness piece that always has to be the foundation. I think there is a bit of work to do, because I think the perception still needs to be challenged of, people who are neurodiverse are less intelligent or less capable. And actually we totally change. And I think that is happening, but it's slowly shifting. And I think the likes of Richard Branson, having on LinkedIn dyslexic thinking is a bit of a superpower. All these sorts of, the great work that Tech's Help are running, with the festivals, all this kind of talk and information can only add and amplify the focus. But I do think that you have to also have a degree of psychological safety and a willingness to share within your own organisation, because I think so many people don't understand what it means to be neurodiverse, what the opportunities are, what the challenges are, and how they can support you. I want to have a truly DE&I friendly world where everyone is celebrated, not just the neurodiverse, not just the gender, all of this is important. But I do think in a work context, neurodiversity is amongst the highest of concerns and priorities for organisations to focus on, because it goes to the heart of you being able to do your job. I think you have to create adjustments that might be applicable almost for anybody. And I think if you're able to do that, then you kind of almost remove any potential stigma or any inference, because not everyone wants to share what their neurodiversity might might be, and that's absolutely fine, and no one should be pushed to do that. But at the same time, if you do, then there's that educational piece that you're potentially covering, where I'm very open about my my neurodiversity, and so I think it does help. But what I would say is my immediate team might not know about my neurodiversity, and that's not necessarily been designed that way, in that I didn't mind sharing, but I think what my line managers felt was that it shouldn't be on you to educate the kind of the team. But I have said, look, I'm very happy to support and fill that gap, because unless we give some of our live examples, we're going to have a harder time discussing it on a more theoretical level. Or even if you do the theory, I'm very happy to sort of say, well, these are some of the challenges. So I think you do need a couple of people who are willing to be spokespeople, but I also very strongly feel that we need to really be talking about this at organisations, and I think it needs to be discussed at the top level. And I think boards need to have it as a really important focus, and we need to be recruiting people, and not just recruiting them, we need to then be retaining them, and we can only do that by reviewing our policies. How are we sort of subconsciously or inadvertently passing people with these various conditions up for opportunities, when actually these are the very people we should be promoting, not by virtue of the fact that they have a condition, but because they have a different way of seeing the world. And actually, if we've got people in these top positions who are neurodivergent, then you're more likely to be able to inspire other talent coming up the ranks, and they're going to be able to have the policy shaped because you are that senior neurodiverse individual, and you're able to say, well, actually, we need to tweak this, we need to adjust this, and create more opportunity. So I think the tools you have, for sure, are around knowledge and awareness. And once that's done, how can we help shape internal policies within our organisation? That's something I've been spending quite a bit of time doing. So running manager awareness sessions, or featuring on podcasts, or seeing how we can really tweak policies that are much more inclusive in practice, not just in writing. But I think, there's a huge piece around if we can get more senior people who are neurodiverse at the senior level, they can really, I think, help shape, influence the workforce landscape. Dyslexic, who did my workplace assessment and whom I had a number of sessions with, had recommended Read&Write to me. One thing that I absolutely love is the ability to kind of highlight text in different colours and then move that into another document. So particularly, as I mentioned, being a lawyer, you are often looking at large documents. And so that ability to just copy what you want in a different color and then it just transports it into another Word document, I found fabulous. I think it's a really good tool for you to have in your armor and as part of the strategies, if you like. So I think anything where you just want to hear it back, that's really, really good. And I think what I would say is, sometimes when you're in the weeds of doing that particular work, it's quite hard to step back and spot your own errors or your own mistakes in the work that you're doing. If I put it through Read&Write and just hear it back, I think that, coupled with maybe doing the email, coming back to it after a few hours or the next day, and then listening to it, can be a really good way to filter what you've written. Is that concise? Is that making sense? Have I missed any words? Am I conveying the message I need to? All of which can be quite dyslexic centric kind of difficulties. I think wholeheartedly, because I think what you do is you recognize everyone has different ways of working. You don't just need a label. In fact, the label is we can almost remove the label because everyone works differently, and we should normalize that. We want to come to work and bring our whole selves to work. And as I said, I really think that's particularly vital for the neurodiverse community, because your neurodiversity directly impacts your work and the strategies you have to support that. So let's normalize it. Let's make the cultures truly DE&I centric by helping people to better understand each other. And I think through that, you're going to absolutely increase productivity, happiness, well-being. You're probably going to have less people off sick, much better retention, you're going to recruit people who are excited to be there. And I think you just create a really beautiful, good, happy business, and that has positive consequences for your customers and stakeholders more generally. So I guess that's how I see it in my very kind of hopeful world for the future.